All right, so for our next speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce someone who has redefined what it means to give urban trees a second life. Shaun Preston is the yard master and driving force behind Camp Small, Baltimore City's innovative urban wood utilization program. Since 2016, Shaun has led Camp Small in repurposing over 1,000 tons of wood annually, producing everything from kiln-drying lumber to outdoor classrooms for city schools. Shaun's efforts extend beyond wood recycling. They focus on fostering community engagement, generating opportunities, and promoting sustainable practices in urban forestry. Today he'll share how Baltimore turned a former stump dump into a national model through creative partnerships, community engagement, and sustainable practices, and give us practical insights into launching similar programs and learn how urban wood reuse can deliver both environmental and economic benefits to our communities. Please join me in welcoming Shaun Preston.
Thanks, Coulter. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I'm going to lower this a little bit. I've really enjoyed the presentation so far. This is a great event. It's so nice to have all these people gathered together and, like-minded individuals, and hopefully, the messages and the things we learn we can spread to those that are a little less like-minded. As Coulter said, my name's Shaun Preston. Hi. I work in Baltimore City. I work for City Forestry, which is part of Recreation and Parks. And I was hired in 2016 to manage our Camp Small facility, to demonstrate proper sorting there, and to try to find value from that material, and to create a program to, well, I wasn't, I guess, hired to create a program. I was hired to capture value, and we created a program. So that's me. Foundations and inspirations, just things that kind of got the program off the ground. And I guess maybe I should stop. I'm going to go all over the place. I'm sorry, but I guess it's nice to sort of be invited to something like this that is like, among all the people that are trying to create canopy, trying to find proper ways to maintain canopy, trying to, find resources and pull folks together to support those efforts, to do it in mindful ways. What I'm here to talk about is what happens to all those materials that come down. What happens to the trees when they fall, when they're dead, when they're removed. What can those resources be utilized for? It's a very large problem around the country. As things come in, we're seeing more and more of those materials pile up, and some places are still landfilling those things. So I'm here to talk about what we have found, what are some creative solutions that we've used. That's kind of everything Coulter said already. City on site, 4.5 acres is what I started with. It's been shrunken down a little bit, like flood zones have shrunken it down. Our utility company has put in a substation on the north side of our facility that took about 1.5 acres away. We're kind of shrunk down to about 3 acres now. It's a centrally located facility. So in Baltimore, I'm just going to take this thing off because I kind of like to wander around. So in Baltimore, we're centrally located. We are like 83, the highway. We're right off of the highway. There's the Jones Falls River. It's a beautiful location. We have a natural wetland right there. The river is there. Lots of wildlife. It's an absolute oasis, an oasis in the city. And it's a beautiful place to come to work. It's a beautiful place to invite people to come. Not only are they coming to see a unique program and facility and products that are completely unique, but they're also entering into this environment that feels like they just completely left the city and went into Narnia or something. And it was very dramatic and to do that up until recently, because when you came into the facility, you drive through like these mountains of logs, walls of logs on either side of the road. But we suffered a massive fire in December, and those logs are gone. So, I probably will touch on that later, or somebody will probably want to ask me questions about that, because people love asking me questions about that massive fire. So we get 8,000 tons of material annually. I like to put that into perspective. That fills a football field 18 feet high. So that's how much material comes into Camp Small every year and what we deal with. That comes in as wood chips and as brush and as logs, and always has. Camp Small gets its name from being a Civil War camp. So it was like an area that was cleared during the Civil War to set up a camp to protect the ammunition that was running up and down the rail, which is now the light rail that runs through the city, and it's been like a dump site for the city's wood waste for about 100 years, 80 years or so. The city was paying for the removal of those materials up to $350,000 at one time. So now we pay about $80 a ton for the removal of those materials, which is probably a pretty average cost to remove this kind of wood waste. So those were large removal costs. The city started a waste to wealth program. That was with our Baltimore Office of Sustainability to target areas throughout the city where they could do initiatives that could find wealth from waste. And Camp Small was one of those areas. So using that, the Sustainability Office, partnering with Department of Recreation and Parks and Division of Forestry, applied for an innovation loan. Our city finance has this really innovative loan called the Innovation Fund that I think has about $4 million in it right now. And agencies can apply for loans if they can show a program that has a return on revenue within 5 years. So our program started from that, which was very convenient. And we were able to pay back that loan within a year and a half. It was 2016. EAB was decimating Baltimore City, so large amounts of ash were coming down and getting ready to proactively come down even more. So the timing was pretty right to find a way to capture the value from material. The abundance of ash, we all know all about this. But some numbers that are interesting. Baltimore City has 2.5 million trees, 10% were ash, 125,000 street trees in Baltimore City, 5% were ash when the EAB came. 400 mature trees were treated. That treatment continues in Baltimore City. And those in bold are why ash is so useful and why there's such a good market for it. It has a beautiful straight grain. It's great to work with. It's a modern color. I mean, the color of ash is similar to this plywood on the on our chairs here. So very light and modern. And we repurpose all of the ash. All ash we use. It gets used for firewood, and I mean we as in Camp Small uses all of the ash that comes into the facility. So we mill it for kiln-dried lumber at the highest value, and at the lowest value, it gets burned for firewood or chipped up for mulch. When I first started, I was by myself there on that 4-acre facility with a front-end loader, and that was it. And did not have anything to process material other than a chainsaw. So I was trying to figure out how I was gonna capture the highest value from material, and I just had a front-end loader and a chainsaw. I found buyers for whole logs though, but I was kind of required to just auction them off. The auctioning did not work. People were not interested in the auction, but I was able to use that as justification to take to city law and say this didn't work. I'd like to create unit pricing structure and sell the material that way. and I was able to do that. A lot of this stuff, a lot of like Camp Small successes, like those champions, those like unicorns that were in Baltimore City at the time, the sustainability office and Beth Stroman. There was the Department of Recreation and Parks, the chief at the time, really supporting it. The chief of Forestry at the time, very much supporting it. And then the head of law, so all these people really getting what you're doing and getting behind it and helping to kind of not rewrite policy, but just like let it sway a little bit. And early on, bowl turners. Like I would go to all the bowl turning associations around Baltimore and say, I've got green wood for sale, and I'll cut it up and I'll buck it up for you. Just tell me what you want. So that's a beautiful piece of Atlantis that was made from Camp Small Log. Distributing wood chips, starting to like get those wood chips out to all the different community groups, and this gentleman here, Marvin Hayes, is a composter, getting the carbon for composting out, and then right away starting to do these like nature exploration areas and outdoor classrooms. When the electric company came into Camp Small, I noticed that there was, stand of ash and poplar and walnut, and harvest all that stuff and got the utility company to buck it to length and leave it on site for us, and then worked with the city to target and find out if there are any building plans coming up that could utilize lumber from that. And within recreation and parks, there were plans to put 17,000 board foot of cladding similar to this inside of a recreation center. That was a $100,000 cost to the city. So I took the trees to the sawmill, local sawmill, had it cut and dried to specification, and it ended up costing the city $27,000 instead of $100,000, and was made out of our own wood. Oh, thanks. So, that's all like low-hanging fruit. I was just like one person, just kind of making phone calls, and cutting wood with a chainsaw. This sort of program closes a loop, right? Like we plant the trees, we maintain the trees, we educate the community about being stewards and all that stuff, and then now we've got this program in place that when the trees do come down, we're able to create products, we're able to help create jobs, we're able to become an education facility, a center to teach, and then the revenue that we create can go back into supporting the growth of the program, as well as like planting the trees and maintaining the trees. So full cycle. This is funny. Yes, we know that, but so why don't we do it? Why aren't we using it? So many people don't think about that. So many people that live in our urban areas don't see the trees in front of their house and think that they can create the wood products that they use. Like all of the wood products that they use, and it's just kind of changing a mindset. We have groups that come in, classes that come in of students, little kids. Like they leave and they go back to their homes and they see the street trees outside, and they're going to look at those trees differently. They're gonna see those trees as being things that are assets. Not just in the ways that we've all talked about today, but after the tree comes down. This is a good example of the benefits of a program like Camp Small. A black walnut, of course, is like, well, not of course, but a black walnut is the most valuable log that comes into Camp Small. It's like about probably double the value of white oak and triple the value of ash. So this kind of puts it into perspective, what kind of value is being lost when you don't have a program like this. This one tree, this one log from this tree can generate $100,000 of economic value locally. And, and that's after, if the log comes down and it was just me with a front end loader and nothing else, I can just sell the log to a buyer for $700. Is that the price I have on there? Yeah, $700. Just making these things up as I go. And then, if we saw it and we kiln dry it, and then we sell the kiln dried lumber, $12,000. But then that maker, literally a customer of Camp Smalls comes, they buy the black walnut, they make conference tables out of it, and each 10-foot conference table is $10,000. So, before those logs were they were sitting around and rotting, or they were getting wood chipped. So some annual numbers of what we do, that's our sawmill. We got a very generous grant from American Forests in 2018 that I was by myself still, and then I had this sawmill, and I had this firewood splitter, and I had this kiln that was basically in a box, and I had to make it, so I used all of that for justification to get help. And then Nick showed up. That's Nick running the sawmill. And then Maurice started coming and helping, and then we started building our crew, and we were able to assemble the kiln, we were able to mill the wood, and Nick came with a lot of woodworking expertise, and was a wood shop teacher for 7 years. And that's a white oak table that's made out of one solid tree. That's a large timber table, 12 feet long, out of one log. White oak is incredible. White oak is, I don't think I talk about white oak here, so I'll just go back before you guys start reading about something I'm not talking about. But white oak's incredible. White oak it's beautiful, it's straight, it has a luster, you quarter saw it, and it's got ray fleck in it. It's what the ships were made out of, it's our state tree. We see 200, 300-year-old white oaks all the time now, unfortunately. But the wood it deserves to continue to go. It doesn't deserve to be wood chips. So we use it, and it's rot resistant. You get rid of the sapwood on the outside, and the wood is rot resistant, so you can use it for outdoor applications. So we build outdoor benches with it. We do outdoor structures with it. We make our raised bed kits out of it. Big timber tables, things that we don't even need to kiln dry, because we just do them thick so that they can last, and we wax the ends and seal it. It's a species that's coming down a lot, and we have a lot of them. And it's really, endless possibilities with that type of tree. Drying it is tricky, but you can dry it. We dry it. Oh, that's a big honey locust on that sawmill. Honey locust is incredible too. Rot resistant and beautiful. Sorry guys. Here we go. Annual numbers. So that's what we do. That's what we did. We do more than that now. 15,000 board foot of kiln dried lumber a year, but we just added another kiln. 30,000 board foot of green lumber, 40,000 board foot of logs upcycled, and 5,000 cubic yards of wood chips distributed. It's about 25% of the incoming material that we get, so about 25% of a football field, 18 feet high. Let's see, that's the wrong way. This is how we create value for our communities. So, not only are we doing an annual revenue of, $150,000 a year, and producing a savings to the city, that's a direct savings from avoided costs that the city would have to pay for that 25% of material if they were to have a contractor come in and remove it. So, an actual savings to the city of $250,000, but also all the services that we provide to the communities, the delivery of wood chips, the discount pricing that we provide them, basically all raw material costs are waived, it's just labor. The consultation, that we that we just do, if you're a parent at a school and you want to do an outdoor classroom at the school, I'm going to come and I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to help you design the thing. You're going to get discount pricing. And that's a lot of service that could be a significant cost and a barrier to those schools getting things like that.
Yeah.
Early on, the Baltimore Wood Project was through the U.S. Forest Service, and it sort of pulled together Camp Small and other folks in the area to sort of spotlight a program like that and the need for it around the country. And early on, in the beginning of our program, it really helped me get a footing and sort of guiding our program and putting like-minded people together around the country that were trying to solve this thing. So big shout out to U.S. Forest Service and Baltimore Wood Project. Here's some pictures, some stuff that we've done. We do a lot of work with Silver and Arboretum, with our friends group there. All of these images are from the new nature center there. So the bench that's inside, the big timber bench inside, is a sycamore, or I think London plane. That was a London plane. The barn is clad with, the work shed is clad with white oak. There's 5 benches outside that all represent our rot-resistant species in Baltimore City, which is Alcova, the honey locust, the black locust, the white oak, and the mulberry. And then the table that's there was made by a local maker from ash. Some other products that local artisans have made out of Camp Smallwood. Our facility is just open. You just make an appointment and you come, and we have an inventory of kiln dried material. And we do custom orders, and we like to take our time with customers and try to fulfill their needs. The kiln dried wood on the credenza hutch piece is premium quality lumber from Camp Small, but the knife maker that got that piece of spalted wood got that out of our scrap pile for 25 cents. But that knife costs like $300 or something crazy. Mark Supik is a local turner in Baltimore City that does some beautiful stuff, and he just donated a lathe to us, so we're excited to incorporate that in our programming and education. But he does these beautiful little trees. The little tables on the far left are in Raven Stadium. There's about 150 tables now through our Raven Stadium that are made from Baltimore City ash, that our good friends and partners at Sandtown Millworks did for their stadium. And this is some of them. But some beautiful pieces in there, made from ash, and that big table is made out of white oak. This is more Silver and Arboretum stuff. So inside there's, the nature center has the center photo represents little blocks that are all the different species in Baltimore City, which are very awesome. And then there's a bin of just the bark to go along with it. So more educational pieces. Those are our cube stools. We do a lot of these NEA spaces, nature exploration areas. We are no longer calling them play areas. So nature exploration areas. And we're working on developing the standards for that for Baltimore City, so that we can implement a lot more of those in our parks, designated park spaces. Which I'm very excited about. We've been doing them for schools for years, and I'm excited about the increase that we're going to be able to do once we get those standards written. So we're working with some other folks and taking the model that San Francisco did with the company Kaboom. But these are examples of what we've done in the past, working with schools to do these mushroom tables and the exploration areas that are, just logs that are fastened or naturally wedged together. And then we cut into them on site with the chainsaws to make them very interactive and fun. And then those tables are an example of what we've done for outdoor education areas at public schools. More examples of that stuff. Those hex tools we don't do so much anymore because they're very difficult to cut, but they were very fun. But Nick said I can't do those anymore. We do a lot of work with the Maryland Zoo, which is in Druid Park. They've been absolutely amazing to work with. But now, if you go to the Maryland Zoo, any wood that you see in an animal and habitat comes from Camp Small. So we have a list of all the species that are edible for certain animals and what's appropriate, what's not. And we have hollow logs for the porcupine. The elephant's got these gigantic logs that it pushes around on this like swinging thing that's amazing. But those logs are like 30 inches in diameter and 10 feet long, and there are 3 of them on this thing, and the elephant just pushes them around. The rhinoceros, has these giant logs that it rolls around. The birds are perching on Camp Small limbs, and then we've built these play structures for the goats. Which is awesome because we were doing it for kids, and then the zoo was like, "Can you do it for our kids?" And we were like, "Yeah, we usually do them like 40 inches tall," and they were like, "With our kids, you can go 60 inches tall because they just bounce." So it was really fun. Obviously, it looks like fun. They've got this great sign out front with big thanks to us, and it's a big sign. It's really cool. That right there is Hoover. If you can see, Hoover's got some red on his beard. You'll find out why Hoover's got red on his beard. So the big reveal at the end of my talk. So workforce development program. So we've been wanting to do a workforce development program for a long time to do. To have folks come in and learn wood shop skills and forestry skills and work with forestry to, get some other insights on career pathways, to do heavy equipment operation. It's not just a track loader anymore. We've got an excavator with a 360 grapple and articulating grapple, and we've got a skid steer with multiple attachments, and we've got all kinds of fun stuff that we can teach people on. And we've been fortunate enough to Baltimore Tree Trust is in the house. They're in here. There they are. So we've been really fortunate to get to work with Baltimore Tree Trust on that, and starting a program where folks of theirs can come over to us for 5-month periods and learn skills. We're hoping to develop a further sort of apprenticeship that will give those folks that have gone through the 5-month program the ability to do heavy equipment operation with us for a year, which is just going to give people really good, valuable skill set. There's the red on Hoover's beard. Hoover painted that painting for us. And goats can paint. Oh my gosh, mind blown. That outdoes Dr. Doug's thing. So on the horizon, things that we are excited about and things that just kind of really fit in with urban wood and what can be possible, because we're a little boutique operation. This is a massive problem. We've successfully figured out for Baltimore how to deal with 25% of the material that comes in. I feel confident that we could get to about 40 or 50% with sort of the same modeling that we have now, just increasing the current model we have now without introducing other means of production. But these are some examples. Compost. Baltimore City's looking to do citywide composting. Citywide composting would solve that low value material that's so hard for us to deal with. All of that carbon could go into a citywide compost operation. So we're working with DPW to purchase a horizontal grinder that they would operate and produce a compost out of, and I'm really hoping that still goes through. But biochar, biofuel are great examples that could be used. Biochar is a great material. They can use a low value product like wood chips, which are a natural byproduct, which happen on site and come into Camp Small, and there's no further work to produce those things. And they can go in green into boiler systems that produce biochar, that convert thermal energy into electricity. It can go back into the grid and can heat buildings. So, great systems that are, many systems under development, but some are already out and working in the United States. Thermally modified wood goes through a very really crazy hot process of cooking in a vacuum system to sort of burn out the cellular structure of the wood and create rot-resistant material out of material that is not rot-resistant. So you can take red oak and thermally modify it and then use it as decking. So materials that we have not big markets for, poplar, red oak, those things could be turned into sustainable products that have high demand, such as decking. Cross-laminated timbers are another one. It's, you could take pulpwood, low-value wood, turn it into a laminate, and build 10-story buildings with it. So that concludes. Thank you so much. I look forward to questions.
Yeah, let's get Shaun again. I'm sure there's lots of questions for Shaun, so Patrick, you want to come on again? I think I'll kick it off, though, maybe while we find some people in the room. What is the strangest or weirdest thing you've ever made? You've ever had to make at Camp Small?
Camp Small, I was going to say baby, but...
Oh, baby, not big. Congratulations. Not you personally, Shaun, but yeah, with wood.
With wood. What's the weirdest thing that I've ever made with wood? I don't know. I don't think anything that I've made is weird. But there are plenty of people that come into Camp Small that make weird things out of wood. I guess I'm maybe not as creative as they are. But there's a gentleman named Junius who, I feel like if I get the age, I'll just say 70 years, so that if he hears this, he's like, oh man, you're so sweet, because he's older than 70 years old. But Junius Woodson is a Baltimore City resident who makes beautiful sculptures, who's a self-taught artist, and they're wild and crazy sculptures. And he has a show opening up next month at the American Visionary Art Museum, which has a bunch of Camp Small sculptures, or wood sculptures in it, which is very cool.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right, Pat.
Hi, thank you, Shaun, for your presentation. That was electrifying. I was really excited to see the logs in the nature exploration areas. I am curious with that in the mulch, do you have to do any sort of treatment to make sure that there aren't diseases or anything that get to living trees that are on the sites for schools, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the mulch, we recommend that anyone installing a nature exploration area uses playground fiber instead of wood chips as a safety standard. And those engineered wood fiber playground mulch has gone through a process that would eliminate any invasives or pests. But if we're using our material, we have like cooked wood chips or fresh wood chips, and we just recommend the cooked wood chips that have been sitting at 160 degrees or 140 to 160. NDE would not want me to say 160 degrees, 140 degrees, which would cook out those things. And then as far as the species of the wood. No, we just like, we make sure that there aren't any invasive like poison ivy or something, but outside of that, we're not doing anything to mitigate something traveling.
All right, back there.
Yeah, hi, great presentation. Similarly, yeah, really, my question is about the invasives. How are you, it sounds like you have lumber coming in from all different sources, so just talk about, when it comes into the yard, how's that being sorted from invasives and removal? I appreciate the comment about just like the wood chips and the removal of invasives and kind of minimizing seed transport to other locations.
Yeah, so we're just not. We're not. We would like to have space. I guess this is a good segue. Camp Small had a massive fire in December. We had a backlog pile that was many years old from when we didn't have a contract in place and the city didn't have a budget in place to deal with removal of incoming material. So 20,000 tons of logs had piled up covering a 2.5 acre site, and in December all of that material burned away in a massive fire. So prior to that, I was kind of always dealing with, I was on a 4.5 acre site, but I had a half acre to do all my sorting of species and materials, which kind of ebbed and flowed, but I never had enough material to do proper sorting. And something like you're mentioning is something our vegetation management program would love to see at Camp Small. They'd love to see an area where, porcelain berry and whatever else could get dumped to the side and contained. But currently we don't have anything in place to do that work. Now that we're almost through the cleanup process and sort of reestablishing, we have a designated area that would go, but I don't know logistically what it's going to look like yet.
All right. Patrick, over here.
Oh, hi Patrick, by the way. It's nice to see you. It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah, me too. Hey, thanks. Oh, cool. You related to my question. So, hi, I'm Colin, Carving Colin. I'm a chainsaw carver, so just like that other guy that's about to have a show in the Visionary Art Museum. I'd like to share one perspective on one question. I remember in a book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, she said that nature has no concept of waste. That doesn't exist. It's not like a thing in nature. Instead, you could kind of replace it with the word resource, because as whatever birds poop, it becomes fertilizer. It's not like they have to put it in the dump or something. So just keep that in mind as a good idea, that if your company or process is creating waste as you think of it, think of how to resource that waste, which is exactly what you're doing, obviously, 100% of the time. But kind of the question is, you're fighting, the illusion of waste is kind of part of capitalism itself. And so, you're fighting really strong headwinds to try to convince people that this wood, which is usually costs money to get rid of. People email me all the time, do you want this log? I'm like, if you can drop it off, maybe, but even then, I'm not gonna pay you, it's free. Wood is free, right? Everyone knows that. And so, I don't pay for logs, for example, but how do you fix the supply side of that? Or is there any idea of how to teach children how to carve spoons or get involved in that? Because I know it's completely lacking for my education. I had to, as an adult, reach out to another chainsaw carver and he taught me, and now we're technically competitors, which is a weird way for capitalism to work, but there's not enough people using this free wood around. What's the youngest wood turner you've ever given wood to? They're all old white guys with a lathe in their basement. There's nobody young has a lathe. They don't even know what wood turning is. So how are we going upstream, or how are you going upstream to the schools to convince people that you should chop off that branch, or that branch that fell, make it into a walking stick, carve it with an angle grinder, or your kitchen knife, or something I feel like the future problem is the wood turners are going to die, and then you're going to have nobody to sell your wood to, and like it's a problem.
Yeah. That inspires a lot. I could respond to that in a lot of different ways. So we do programming. Schools. We have a school coming next week. They come. They pick a log, where they let Nick know, hey, we want a cherry log and we want an ash log. And then they come. The whole class comes. We give them demonstrations on the tools in the wood shop, and then they get to work with Nick and our team on the sawmill to cut the 2 logs, learn how to sticker the logs, bundle the logs, put them onto their flatbeds, take them back to the school where they dry all year and air dry, and then next year they build projects out of them. So, doing things like that is creating a mindfulness that you're right, that like would otherwise, or doesn't exist, or would otherwise be going away pretty fast. Wood turners make up such a small percentage of the people that come into Camp Small, and they're great, but if we only dealt with wood turners, oh my gosh, because one wood turner can easily take up all day of my time. Like they will just talk about every little detail in a piece of wood and tell me about every single thing that's happened to them in their whole life. And I love all of them; they're so wonderful. But I don't know if I want to create more of them. I'm a wood turner. I'm one of those old guys. It also inspires me to think that things like, if it falls in the forest, leave it in the forest, right? Like programs like us we're not hungry for logs. I'm not hustling to pull stuff out of the woods, or I'm not driving down and being man, I can't wait till that tree falls, that's not where I come from, and that's not the mindset. We are blessed to not be, and my pardons to all you private businesses, but we're blessed to not be a private business, and we can focus on being something for the community. We can focus on being stewards and being a resource, and I love that. We love that. Me and my coworkers, we love that about our jobs. The other thing that was inspired is Forest Valley's in the house. I saw Forest Valley's in the house. Their names. There's Josh. I've known Josh for a long time in Forest Valley, because when I started, they had the contract with Baltimore City, and we worked together to try to figure out what they could do, how they could improve removals and delivery, and help us achieve better sorting, help us achieve those better standards of incoming materials, so that a log that maybe before the program would have been cut to 5 feet is now being cut to maximum length, so that we can put it on the sawmill, we can create boards, and they've been on that road with us from the beginning, and it's drastically changed, and it takes communication, and it takes everybody understanding what you're trying to do, because it's obviously we're all doing great work, and once that's understood, people are going to support it.
All right. Miller, did you have somebody back there? Yep.
Hi. First, thank you so much for your presentation. It's very exciting to hear about Camp Small.
Thanks.
I recently had within the past 6 years, I've had 2 huge white oak trees come down. The first one mostly went to firewood until a wood turner showed up on my doorstep looking for wood, and I was very excited to have him come and take some away. The second one mostly went to reincarnation and went to mushroom logs for a school teacher, and went to firewood. But my question to you is, I actually have 2 questions. The first is, do you have advice for people who are mindfully trying to reuse their lumber? because I know it took quite a while to find people who are willing to use my lumber and a company who was willing to cut it to specifications. And then the second is if you have any advice for municipalities that might want to emulate or duplicate some of the work that you're doing at Camp Small.
Yeah, thank you. Those are good questions. So advice to, well, you know,
Questions.
I'm not a natural speaker, but I do like going around and talking about the work I do, and so I often am doing that. I'm often going around and talking about the work that I do. You know, getting on the phone with. I think like next week it's like Olympia, Washington. I just came back from Tacoma, Washington. So you know, trying to share it and make people aware of this work and trying to help municipalities understand that it doesn't need to start with much. Like this started with a $99,000 loan from Baltimore City Finance, which you know we were on the hook to pay back in 5 years' time, and we paid it back in a year. And you know, and the $99,000 hired me, and I got a screener, and I screened through piles, and I sold the compost. And I sold the compost to a company that had a contract with housing to do vacant lot removals because you know I identified that they needed material for backfill. So I was like, you can use this. This is the cost, and I paid back the loan. So it was no-brainer, slam dunk, easy peasy. And you know, it's all such a valuable resource. You just need somebody to sit in there and figure it out. So that's like how I try to recommend starting the program. Just like the director of recreation and parks at the time and the chief of forestry, you know, they were like, let's just get somebody in there. Just get somebody in there, see if they can figure it out. I forget what the other question was. What was the other question?
Advice.
Homeowners, yeah, for homeowners.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, so you know, our projection is that we would like to open our doors and have and accept material from arborists, local arborists, and be able to say like, hey, we're going to start accepting material. We're going to start with white oak, and we're going to start with ash. We're going to start by the high-value materials, and they can bring it to Camp Small, which is centrally located. So that would help some of that problem for homeowners, especially if other programs like ours were replicated, and you know, and there were more sites that those folks could bring stuff. Right now it's tricky, you know. Right now you gotta do it on social media, or if you call around, you know, some arborists might be able to swing by and pick it up, depending on the species. I think, you know, rules of thumb when people call me and ask. The questions that I ask, because you know I get that question a lot from homeowners in Baltimore City. Hey, this tree fell down in my yard. Can I donate it to Camp Small? And I'm like, well, you can't, but donate it to Camp Small. But I'm like willing to help them. So my questions to them are, what species is it? How long are they? The logs. What diameter are they? And if it's a log that's been left at 8 feet long, and is a white oak log that's 8 feet long and 36 inches in diameter, I've got a huge list of people that want that log. But if the company came onto your property and they cut it into 2-foot sections, like I got nobody. I'm like, you can get on social media and say you got some firewood logs and somebody might come get it, but good luck, you know. So yeah, just before the work starts, make sure that, you know, if you wanted to have use afterwards, that it's left long.
All right. Yeah. Do you have a question over here, Patrick?
I mean, I also say that blows my mind, because as a residential homeowner, I'm just like, I should chop this up pretty small to make sure people can take it away. It's
Right.
all wrong.
Great presentation, I agree. It's inspiring, and
a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so, I was seeing on my street they were taking down some trees, and I called around to try to find somebody to take the trees. And a lot of the folks who do milling were saying that they don't want street trees because they're afraid of nails and metal objects that might have been inside of it, and when they lumber it, it could cause a problem. So I was wondering if you have problems with that, and if you know, it seems like you do accept street trees, or I'm curious about that.
Yeah, 90% of the trees that we deal with are street trees. More than 90%. So we take, it's all street trees and then some stuff from open parks. But yeah, so we deal with a lot of metal. It's not nearly as much as I thought it would be, or was told it would be. I had heard a pamphlet when I first got the job in 2016. It might have been like the first month that I got the job, and I was like getting as much like resources as I could to figure out what I was going to do in my job. and I got this like pamphlet, I think, that the U.S. Forest Service had put out in 1986 or something, and it was like it was called like starting an urban sort yard sawmill operation, and page 1 was like, don't do this. This will not work. I was like, oh no, what did I do? So, one of the big things was that. And, when I was told by Baltimore City to just auction off the logs, create piles and auction them, I went to the sawmill, the large sawmill, and I was like, would you have any interest in their logs? And they were like, no way, because if we hit metal from your logs, it's like that, it can be thousands of dollars in damage. But sawmill, like the one that we run, is a Wood-Mizer, and it's bandsaw blades, and they cost $23 each. We get them resharpened for $11 each. So if we hit metal, it's $11 in damage, and it's safe. It's not gonna like bust out and shoot a shard at somebody's face or something. That sounds really horrible. So I don't know who you were talking to, but if they were a portable bandsaw mill operator, chances are they usually deal with urban wood, and they're aware of those things, and the cost is pretty low. We'll hit metal on average one every 4 logs, and on average, if we hit metal once, we're going to hit it twice, and sometimes we're going to hit it 20 times. It's like, you drive down the street, and there's like the one tree that always has a sign on it, but then you pass 4 that don't. So.
All right, Melinda, do you? We have time, probably 2 or 3 more questions.
Hey, how are you? I'm Sarah Jensen, herbalist with Save a Tree. So I just wanted to, I thought it would be helpful to kind of talk about the logistics, because I think a lot of us have either, if you haven't taken down the tree, the logistics of that, especially in Montgomery County or Prince George's County, are pretty tricky, right? Because if you have a large tree, the size of this table, let's say, and your house, to be able to take sections out of that tree that are big enough for a sawmill, or you can't take 8-foot sections out of a tree and drop them in between a 12-foot side yard in between 2 structures in order to make it usable for the sawmill, but make it safe enough for us to not hit a structure or hurt somebody, right? So I think that's always been the struggle, and I'd be delighted. I wonder if Montgomery Parks is considering a similar venture to what Baltimore City Recreation Parks has partnered with you to do, because I think that they've got the land and they've got the resources. But I think, for me, when I'm taking trees down, unfortunately, we are Save a Tree. I like to keep them up, just saying. But when the unfortunate circumstance happens that we have to remove them, I have only limited places that they can go. And if I want to get those larger sections, I would have to have a crane come to get those sections in order to get them onto a truck and send them to the mill. And that cost goes to you. So that's not something that we can do pro bono. That would be if it's a private tree care company that's doing your tree removal, that cost gets offset to you. So while it's something we love to do, and I have had clients that have found their own mill and found transportation for that wood, and they were paying for a crane, that's perfect. But that's really the only scenario where we're able to actually be able to get those usable pieces so that they can be created into other things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Joshua I mentioned back there for Forest Valley is really familiar with me being green to this job and being like, they all have to be 10 feet long. And Josh is like, it's impossible for them all to be 10 feet long because of those things that you just pointed out. So like, yeah, often we miss out on some. Yeah, I think that the rule that we try to put is that if it's a walnut log that is 60 inches in diameter, and a straight trunk for 40 feet, like that log would justify the cost of a crane. So I think it's having really good communication, having a line of communication so that when the contractor gets to the tree and deems that like they've got to parcel it up, the conditions don't allow for what I'm asking, that that call gets made and then the decision gets made whether or not we can justify the costs. But yeah, those are good points.
All right. Any other questions? We got the last one back here, with your hand up. Someone will come here. Here comes one. Last question.
Hi, my name is Andres. I work for DEP. I'm an arborist, and congratulations for the Camp Small project.
Thank you.
I love it, and I love the park project as well with the green waste. So my question is regarding your operation and your logistic and your product. So how do you deal or address the challenges between diversification and specialization? So that means, like you mentioned a lot of different type of product, but when you have like a big assortment of product, the challenge about your logistic and operation get harder. Instead of having just one single product or two products, that your operation can be way more efficient, faster, and you can scale up, and profitability as well. So how do you balance that, having like a big diversity but challenging like all the operation and logistic?
That's a really good question. I think the short answer is we're a public project and not a private project, and so we don't have to worry so much about those efficiencies. But also everything that we do uses I would need all of the equipment that I have if all I was doing was kiln dried lumber. And I can use all of that equipment to do all the other things that we do. So I'm not increasing my overhead costs by being able to produce all those things. And they all are fairly simple to produce. Like if somebody comes on board and they learn how to produce kiln dried lumber, they've learned how to do all of the other things too. So it all is like in the same wheelhouse kind of. And then also being able to diversify and do all of the different things allows us to be a better community resource. So, if like you came into Camp Small and you were looking for a hollow log that you wanted to turn into a little flower bed. You were gonna cut it in half and cap the sides and have this little hollow log flower bed. You could come to Camp Small and you could say, hey, can I come by at 3:30 tomorrow? I've got this idea. We would talk to you about the idea, and then I'd help you find a hollow log, and you'd leave with it, and it would cost you like $3. And that would be like $3 for the log, and not any cost for my time. And I think that's like the huge asset with a program like this being a community service, because along those lines, like I mean, you may not be learning a whole lot, but somebody else might be learning a whole lot. Like they come into Camp Small with just like tons of questions. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was here. Where does all this come from? Wow, this is all street trees? Wow, you know, and like, and they just leave with like all this education that they pass along to folks. And I think that's like the biggest importance with the program, you know.
All right, Shaun, thank you so much. Let's give it up for Shaun again. Really appreciate it, yeah.